Cheers, Rebel Gamers. Welcome to Mo's Matinee. Essentially, this is going to be a more family-oriented version of Midnight Movie Massacre, which is my review segment that's been a staple on my channel since forever. Basically, this is going to cover the lighter side of cinema. Does that mean these movies aren't going to absolutely kick ass? No, it just means they aren't going to be slammed full of 70s bush, boobies, and fucking ultra-violence. The type of shit you can throw on a lazy Sunday with your kids and still fucking enjoy yourself, you know? Every episode is going to be a double feature. We're going to recommend 2 movies. They're not going to be super in-depth reviews. I'm going to do my best not to spoil too much of it for you, and I think it's going to be a good time. Our theme for our first episode is adventure, so we're going to throw 2 adventure flicks out at you, first of which is Stand By Me. Stand By Me was directed by Rob Reiner. It was produced by Bruce A. Evans and Andrew Scheinman. It was based on a story called The Body by Stephen King, distributed by Columbia Pictures. It was released on August 8th of 1986. Stand By Me is really just a great example of a classic coming-of-age flick. If you don't know what a coming-of-age flick is, it's basically a movie about kids in their formative years, kind of dealing with their own problems in life and figuring out a little bit of something about themselves along the way. Typically, they're narrated in hindsight by one of the kids from their adult life looking back at the past. Basic gist of Stand By Me is a bunch of kids get together and they've heard that this kid got hit by a train and the body's still there, so they set out on an awesome adventure down the train tracks to see a dead body. Naturally, along the way, they kind of deal with some of their own shortcomings, they bond as a group and become better friends overall, and they kind of get to know each other a lot better just in general. Got Will Wheaton up in there, Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell, River Phoenix. The whole movie is kind of tragic in hindsight too when you think about where River Phoenix ended up and shit. I kind of feel like the end of Stand By Me is us saying goodbye to his innocence, you know. Definitely think you should check this out. It's just jam-packed with adventure, excitement. There's some really genuinely touching moments, some genuinely funny moments, and the whole sort of morbid backdrop of them going to see a dead body just adds something to it that I can't quite explain, but you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you see it. I totally would have been one of those kids that was wanting to go see that dead body, and I'm sure it would have affected me the same way that it ends up affecting these kids in the end. If you've seen this before, it's totally worth watching again, and if you haven't seen it yet, get your ass out there and check it out. You will not regret it. Alright, so before we dive into our second movie of the afternoon, it's important we get a discussion topic going, because I really want these episodes to foster discussion where film and like animation and shit like that's concerned. We talk plenty about video games, okay? There's no shortage of areas where you can go converse with other people about video games. Probably not for film either, but for our little group of people, I think this would be a good spot to start doing that on the regular. So our first discussion topic is movies that for a long time you remembered vividly but could not remember the name of. My movie is Explorers, where they build the trash can fucking spaceship. That for the longest time, that's how I remembered the movie, was it's that one where they build the fucking spaceship out of trash. It turns out that it's called Explorers, and I for the longest time would see it and be like, oh yeah, this is that movie, it fucking kicks ass, and then I would forget about it again. Like the title. So there was definitely times I went to the video store and wanted to rent the movie, but just would space the fucking title. Obviously later when the internet became more accessible, I discovered that. But I keep running into people that can remember movies and just can't remember the titles of. There's a couple others floating around, they're not coming to mind at the moment, but there are other ones I'm looking for. So I think as a cool running theme for this series, one thing we could do is help people identify those movies. So even if it's like after this episode, feel free to throw descriptions down there, and either me or one of the crafty cats in the comments might be able to help you identify that movie. I've had a couple of those lately. Sadly, I was not able to help them discover what movie it was, but then I've had a couple where I was. Like my girlfriend recently, all she remembered was there was a scary part in this movie where like a Bigfoot stuck its hand in a window. We ended up finding out, I guess, that that's Legend of Boggy Creek, so you know, usually has a solution if you can find the right description and type the right phrase into Google. So I'd be curious to find out, you know, what's a movie you guys couldn't remember the title of for a long time, and then eventually finally discovered it and, you know, was able to search the movie out based on that. Throw it in the comments below. So continuing our theme of adventure, it would be impossible to do this with these types of movies without talking about the Goonies. I know a lot of people are like, oh, the Goonies, like, what else could be said about that? Well, certain things could be said about it to entice people who haven't seen it or have not seen it in a good long while to get off their ass and watch it, especially if they have kids. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the Goonies right now, and then we're going to close this out with something. I don't know yet. The Goonies was directed by Richard Donner, produced by Richard Donner and Harvey Bernhard, with a story by Steven Spielberg, distributed by Warner Brothers. It was released on June 7th in 1980 motherfucking 5, baby. What can I really say about the Goonies? I mean, most of us that watched it growing up know that it's hands down one of the best, like, adventure, family-oriented movies ever fucking made. I mean, I hesitate to call it a children's movie because it really isn't a children's movie. It has stuff in it that appeals to everybody. There's a little bit of twisted, sinister shit that goes on, but there's a lot of lighthearted action and fun and bonding with these characters. And in its own way, minus like the hindsight-style narration, it's a coming-of-age flick in and of itself. For those of you guys that, for some weird, tragic reason, have never seen the Goonies, it's basically about a group of these middle-class kids that live in this area of town on the Oregon coast called the Boondocks. These rich folks are going to foreclose on the whole area, and they haven't been able to get the money to, like, stop them from doing this, so essentially the Boondocks is going to get paved and made into, like, a golf course for these rich fucks to go around with all their highfalutin friends and swing their dicks on. This ragtag group of kids ends up finding this treasure map and a medallion that points towards a legendary local treasure hidden by a pirate named One-Eyed Willie. They end up teaming up with some other local kids and a deformed fucking mongoloid to go on an underground adventure to find said treasure, all the while avoiding various booby traps set up by One-Eyed Willie and his pirate gang and being pursued by a criminal family called the Fratellis. Basically, it's just a story about kids going on an epic quest to find hidden treasure, that way they can save the neighborhood they love. It's got that modern Indiana Jones kind of vibe, but from the perspective of young people, so anybody can relate to it. It's just a fucking treat. If you haven't seen the Goonies, get out there and watch it. Even if you have already seen it, get out there and fucking check it out again. You know as good as I do that it's great for repeated viewing, and especially if you have kids that haven't seen the Goonies, show it to them. I am definitely of the opinion that this and a handful of other movies that we will definitely be covering on this series are essential viewing for your children growing up. If you grew up on them and then you didn't turn right around and show them to your own kids, whether you knew you were doing it or not, you kind of did them a disservice. So take this opportunity to rectify that. Show them the Goonies immediately. In closing, I guess I would say don't let the hype fucking put you off to this, okay? The Goonies is one of those movies that gets hyped up a lot because it's like a huge piece of nostalgia for a lot of people. But the thing is, it holds up and it 100% lives up to that hype. Lots of movies like this get hyped up, and lots of people out there try to be like edgy or some bullshit and avoid watching these classic films because so many people like them. And then even when they get around to watching them, they find reasons to dislike them or be like, I don't know what the big deal is. The Goonies is one of those rare movies that even if you're that type of person, I would wager you could watch it and still probably love it, even if that's not the opinion you express outwardly. So don't be a bitch. Go out there, watch the Goonies, whether or not you're nervous of the hype or not, because I guarantee you, you won't be disappointed. Before you guys even see this, there will be at least 1 month, if not 2 months worth of these videos done. It's the least I can do, okay? We all love movies, I'm sure. We all spend a good deal of our time watching movies and TV shows when we aren't playing video games. The boys put a lot of work into getting those episodes out to you guys each week to indulge that fucking, you know, your gaming hobby. The least I can do is put something together for you sexy beasts and those fucking kooks so that they can have, like, something else to put out on the channel and we can all come together on something. They can take some time to be the viewer instead of the producer and just take a load off, boys. Enjoy it, because there's many more of these to fucking come. I'm gonna kill this 40. We're gonna keep this rolling with 2 more fucking movies in episode 2, baby. I don't know why I held it all weird up at the top of the neck like a little bitch. It's strange. I don't normally do that.